Welcome to The Explainer. You know, every single time you visit a website, you're actually stepping into two completely different worlds at once. So today, we're going to break down the architecture of the web and really get to know these two sides, the front end and the back end.
So let's just jump right in with a question. You see a website, you click on things, stuff happens. But what's really going on behind the curtain to make it all work? Well, it turns out figuring out that split is the key to understanding how the entire modern web is built. And to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to use a super simple metaphor for this whole explainer. Just imagine every website is a restaurant. The part you actually experience, the dining room with the tables, the cool decor, the waiters, that's the front end. And the part you never see, the busy kitchen where all the food is actually being made, that's the back end. All right, let's dive in. Starting with the dining room. This is the part of the website you know and see, the user's world.
So this first world is the front end, but you'll also hear it called the client side. And there's a really simple reason for that name. All the code for what you see and what you do, it runs on the client's device. That means right inside the web browser on your computer or your phone. The front end is basically built with a team of three core technologies. First, you've got HTML. That's the basic structure, kind of like the tables and chairs in our restaurant. Then comes CSS, which adds all the style, the decor, the lighting, the whole vibe. And finally, you have JavaScript. JavaScript is the interactivity. It's the waiter who actually takes your order and makes the whole experience feel alive.
Now here's something that's really interesting. Because all of this code is running right there in your browser, it's not a secret at all. Literally anyone can right-click on a web page and hit View Page Source to see the exact code that's building the experience. In a way, the dining room's blueprint is totally open for any customer to look at.
Okay, so now let's push through those swinging doors and go behind the scenes, into the back end. This is the server's brain, the hidden kitchen that powers the entire operation. The back end, or the server side, is where all the heavy lifting happens. And unlike the front end, this code doesn't run on your computer. Nope, it runs on these powerful remote computers we call servers. It's the part that handles everything you don't see, all the logic, the databases, the real core functions of the site. So every time you click a link or fill out a form, you're kicking off this simple three-step cycle. First, your browser sends a request to the server. That's you ordering from the menu. Second, the server processes that request. The kitchen gets the ticket, checks the ingredients, and cooks the meal. And finally, the server sends a response back to your browser, which is the finished meal delivered right to your table. And this diagram, it basically shows that exact cycle, just a little more technically. Over on the left, the client, that's you, sends a request. The server, in the middle, gets it and runs some code. In this case, it's PHP, a really popular language for this stuff. Then, and this is the most important part, it sends back a standard HTML page on the right. See, the server doesn't send you its secret recipe, the PHP code, it just sends you the finished dish, the HTML.
Yeah, and just like a real kitchen during a crazy dinner rush, the back end can get a little stressful. I think anyone who's ever worked with server-side code can definitely relate to this feeling right here.
Okay, so let's put these two worlds side by side. Let's really make the differences crystal clear by putting the dining room and the kitchen head to head. This table really just lays it all out. Look at these key differences. Front end runs in your browser, back end runs on the server. Because of that, front end code is visible while back end code is hidden. And that has huge implications for security. You absolutely cannot store sensitive stuff like passwords on the front end. That's a job for the much more secure back end. I mean, you wouldn't leave the cash register out in the middle of the dining room, right? You keep it locked in the back office. It's the exact same idea.
And that brings us to such a critical point. The back end is what makes personalization possible. When a website greets you by name, or when Netflix recommends a show it knows you'll like, that is all server-side logic at work. It's the kitchen remembering your favorite dish and having it ready for you.
At the end of the day, a beautiful dining room is pretty useless without a kitchen, and a world-class kitchen doesn't mean much if it has nowhere to serve its food. A truly great website, just like a great restaurant, needs both parts working together in perfect harmony. Now, to make that harmony happen, developers don't just pick tools at random. They choose a full development stack, which is basically a pre-packaged collection of technologies that are all designed to work together, covering everything from the database in the kitchen to the user interface in the dining room. Two of the most famous stacks out there are LAMP and Mean. LAMP is an absolute classic. It's powered a huge chunk of the web for years: Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. Mean is a bit more modern, and it's pretty interesting, because it uses JavaScript for the whole shebang.
MongoDB for the database, Express and Node.js on the server, and Angular for the front end.
So how does the waiter actually talk to the chef? Well, they communicate through something called an API. Think of it like the restaurant's standardized order ticket. It's a system that makes sure the waiter writes down burger, no onions, in a way the kitchen is always going to understand. The front end uses this API to ask the back end for data. And that data is often sent in a simple format called JSON, which is like the clear, simple language printed on the ticket itself.
But of course, that communication doesn't always go according to plan. Sometimes the kitchen messes up the order, or there's a problem, and the server has to send back an error message. That's exactly what's happening when you see something like a 500 internal server error. So why does any of this really matter to you? Well, you actually see this elegant dance between the front end and the back end in pretty much everything you do online. When you log into your email, when you submit a contact form, or when you scroll down your social media feed and new posts just magically appear without the whole page refreshing. That's the magic. That is these two worlds working together perfectly. And that's our look at the two worlds of web development. Hopefully, you now see every website not just as a single page, but as a whole system, a complete restaurant. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. If you were going to build a website, which would you rather be? The back-end architect, designing the systems and logic in the kitchen? Or the front-end interior designer, crafting the perfect user experience in the dining room?